In today's world, delivering educational content goes beyond just providing information. It's about ensuring that every learner, regardless of their backgrounds or abilities, has the equal opportunity and access to learning. Inclusivity means considering the diverse needs of all learners. Whether it's providing captions for those who might be hard of hearing or using plain text so that it's understandable for everyone, small changes can make a big difference. Thank you for tuning in to Someone Experiences. My name is Irene Sedede, and let's start with the basics. What is accessibility? Accessibility is about removing barriers that might be preventing someone from participating in learning. This could be as simple as using large font sizes or implementing audio transcripts. That way, all learners have access to the information. Disabilities come in different forms. This can be visual, motor, cognitive, and auditory impairments. And each of these can impact how learners interact with digital educational content. Without proper accessibility features, individuals with disabilities may face barriers when trying to engage or interact with the digital online learning content. Sometimes accessibility can be confused with usability, and this is because they both have a lot of overlapping similarities. Although both of these are very crucial within the design process, there are still a lot of major differences between them. Usability is usually concerned with whether the designs are effective, efficient, and satisfying to use. Accessibility, on the other hand, is more concerned with whether a user is able to access a similar or equivalent user experience. And another difference is that accessibility focuses on individuals who have disabilities. So how can we implement accessibility to ensure that we're creating more inclusive educational content? One way is by involving diverse stakeholders. So this would include students, teachers, educators, and accessibility experts in the educational content development process. The other way is by implementing the POUR principles. To provide inclusive and accessible learning experiences, we can implement the POUR principles to our designs. So POUR stands for perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. First, you want to make sure that your content is perceivable. And this usually includes providing alternative text for images or captions for video content, and also audio descriptions for multimedia content. Next, you want to ensure that your content is operable. And this means allowing your users to interact with your content in various ways. This would be using a keyboard, a mouse, a touch screen, or even a screen reader, and even through using assistive technologies. You want to make sure that you're avoiding only using one method. Third, you want to make sure that your content is understandable. So the different ways that you can make your content more understandable to meet accessibility standards is by using simple things such as clear headings, labels, and consistent navigation menus. This not only helps a user be able to navigate the content, but they're also able to understand it better because they have an easier user experience with the educational content. Finally, you want to strive for content that is robust. And a great way to do this is to ensure that your educational content or whatever format that you're providing is compatible with different devices. You also want to ensure that it's compatible with different browsers as well as assistive technologies. And this is a great thing to practice because it ensures that your content is accessible over time. Now, another way to ensure that you're creating educational content that is accessible is by following laws or global accessibility standards. Accessibility laws and global accessibility standards usually set guidelines that should be followed in order to ensure that your digital content is accessible for all. Laws such as the ADA or the Americans with Disabilities Act here in the US, and also global accessibility standards such as WCAG, also known as Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, are great resources to utilize when you're developing your educational content. That way, when you are delivering it, it is accessible for everyone, especially for learners with disabilities. So by following accessibility fundamentals and principles, as well as paired with following accessibility laws and global accessibility guidelines, not only are you creating content that is accessible, but you're ensuring that every learner has an equal opportunity to gain knowledge from the educational learning content that you're providing. By doing this, you're providing an inclusive learning experience for all. Additionally, another thing that you can do to ensure that your content is accessible is leveraging technology. Right now, there are a lot of advancements with technology, and these technologies can help you make sure that you're creating content that is accessible. For instance, we do have AI now that's able to turn text into speech. We also have AI that has the ability to generate alternative text. And then we also have a lot of softwares and platforms that are able to automatically generate closed captions. So these technologies can make it easier and also can streamline the process in ensuring that your content is accessible. Now that you know what accessibility is and you know some of the laws or global accessibility standards, as well as principles that you should follow to ensure that your educational content is accessible, let's talk about some of the benefits and as well as the challenges that may occur when trying to create accessible educational content. One of the benefits of providing accessible learning content is inclusivity. Inclusive teaching means recognizing and valuing the differences that every individual brings to the table. So that could be different backgrounds, perspectives, and experiences. It's about creating an environment where all learners feel welcomed, considered, as well as respected. Inclusivity and accessibility are not just checkboxes that you want to tick off when you're developing content. These are fundamental principles and practices that shape the way individuals learn. When we fail to consider these principles or apply these practices, we exclude learners, which in turn leads to a negative learning experience. By prioritizing inclusivity and applying universal design for learning principles, we create a learning environment where all learners feel valued as well as empowered to succeed. This also fosters a culture of equity and inclusion. Now let's talk about some of the challenges of providing accessible content. One of the main challenges is usually a lack of awareness. A lot of people are not aware of how to implement principles or follow simple accessibility guidelines to ensure that their content is accessible. They may not know where to go to find these resources, or they simply just don't have the knowledge of the different disabilities that are out there and how to ensure that you're meeting the needs of each individual learner. Many educational content developers might not know some of the barriers that might be presented for different learners. So with a lack of knowledge, it can be difficult to implement, or because they're not aware, accessibility may come as an afterthought after developing the content. Another challenge is the misconception that creating accessible educational content is either costly or extremely difficult. And this cannot be far from the truth. When you leverage things like technology in your process of developing your educational content, it does actually make it easier to create more accessible content. For instance, there are now text-to-speech softwares that you can utilize. There's also AI, which now can help you generate things like alternative text for images. And there's so many platforms out there that provide automatic closed captioning. So when you're creating educational video content, just simply using platforms that do provide these closed captionings makes a whole lot of difference in ensuring that your content is accessible. Now, when it comes to cost, there may be an initial investment. That is usually a one-time investment, and that one-time investment is usually less costly in the long term. Because remember, when you're applying accessibility to digital content, there are laws that are required to be followed. And when you're not applying these laws, you do face the risk of experiencing things such as lawsuits, and that can be extremely costly. So that one-time investment is usually more beneficial within the long term, as opposed to not making that investment at all. So whether you're an educational content creator, a teacher, a trainer, or instructional designer, you have the unique opportunity to provide inclusive learning content for everyone. Thank you for tuning into Somewhere Experiences. My name is Irene Sidede. Please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.